12 people. One room. And 40 years later, they all told the same story, but none of them could remember the song. It was March 1968. A cold Tuesday night in Greenwich Village. The kind of night where the city felt too big and too small at the same time, where everyone was looking for something they couldn't name. A fourth-floor apartment on McDougal Street. Exposed brick. Creaking floorboards. Windows that rattled when trucks passed below. The kind of place where artists lived because they had to, not because it was charming. 12 people sat in that room. Most of them didn't know each other. They'd been invited by different friends, through different connections, all arriving separately throughout the evening. A few musicians. A couple of poets. A painter. A dancer. Some people whose names would never be remembered, whose contributions to that era existed only in moments like this. Small gatherings in small rooms where the future was being quietly invented. They'd been told that someone might stop by. Someone worth hearing. That's all anyone knew. Around 11 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Jimi Hendrix walked in carrying his Stratocaster in a worn case. No entourage. No announcement. He was wearing a loose paisley shirt, bell-bottom jeans, his signature headband. He nodded to the room, a gesture so subtle it barely qualified as a greeting. And sat down on the floor in the corner. Someone offered him a beer. He took it. Didn't drink it. Just held it. The room went quiet. Not the nervous quiet of people trying to be respectful, but the organic quiet that happens when everyone simultaneously realizes something important is about to occur. Jimmy opened his guitar case. Pulled out the Stratocaster. Ran his fingers along the neck without plugging it in, without tuning it, without any of the ritual musicians usually perform before playing. Then he looked up at the 12 people sitting in that small room and said the only words he would speak for the next 20 minutes. "Play me something." Hendrix didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Confusion rippled through the room. One of the musicians, a folk guitarist named Michael who'd been playing Washington Square Park for 3 years, stammered, "You want us to play for you?" Jimmy nodded once. Michael looked at the others. A woman named Claire had brought her acoustic guitar. There was a guy in the corner with a harmonica. Someone else had bongos. "What should we play?" Claire asked. "Whatever you were going to play before I got here," Jimmy said quietly. "Pretend I'm not here." It was an impossible request. Jimi Hendrix was sitting 6 feet away from them. The man who had set his guitar on fire at Monterey. The man who had redefined what the instrument could do. The man whose album Are You Experienced had detonated in everyone's consciousness just months earlier. Pretend he wasn't there. Michael picked up his guitar. His hands were shaking. He started playing a Bob Dylan song. "Don't think twice, it's all right." Because it was safe, because everyone knew it, because he couldn't think of anything else. He made it through the first verse. His voice cracked. His fingers fumbled a chord change. He stopped, embarrassed, looking at Jimmy. Jimmy's eyes were closed. His head was tilted back slightly, resting against the brick wall. His own guitar sat across his lap, unplugged, untouched. "Keep going," Jimmy said, eyes still closed. Michael continued. The song got a little better. Claire joined in with quiet harmonies. The harmonica player added soft notes. The room began to relax, just slightly, into the music. When the song ended, there was silence. Jimmy opened his eyes. Looked directly at Michael. "Why'd you pick that one?" Michael shrugged, uncomfortable. "I don't know. It's a good song." "Is it your song?" "No, it's Dylan's." "I mean, is it yours? The thing you'd play if no one was listening. The thing that's yours." Michael didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was he'd chosen the safest thing he could think of. The thing least likely to embarrass him in front of someone who had already transcended everything Michael was still trying to learn. Jimmy nodded slowly, understanding without judgment. He looked around the room at the other faces. "Any of you got something that's yours?" No one moved. 12 people, most of them artists in some form, all of them suddenly aware of how little they trusted their own voices. The painter, a woman named Sarah who hadn't planned to speak at all, said quietly, "I don't play music." "You got something you made?" Jimmy asked. "I paint. But I didn't bring." "Tell me about one." "The one that scared you." Sarah blinked. "Scared me?" "The one where you didn't know if you could do it. Where you almost stopped." Subscribe and leave a comment, because the meaning of this moment is still unfolding. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she started talking. About a painting she'd been working on for 3 months. A canvas that wasn't coming together. Colors that wouldn't cooperate. A vision in her head that her hands couldn't execute. "I keep wanting to give up on it," she said. "Start something easier." Jimmy's eyes were on her. Not judging. Just listening. Really listening. The way most people pretended to listen but never actually did. "What's it about?" he asked. "My mother. She died last year. I'm trying to paint what it felt like when she couldn't remember my name anymore. When she'd look at me and I could see she was searching, trying to find me in her memory, but I was gone. I don't know how to show that. I don't know if I can." The room was absolutely still. Someone's breathing was audible. A car horn sounded on the street below, distant and irrelevant. "That's the one you finish," Jimmy said. "That's the only one that matters. But I don't know how. You finish it because you're scared. That's how you know it's yours." He turned to Claire. "You got one like that?" Claire nodded slowly. "I wrote a song about my brother. He came back from Vietnam different. He won't talk to anyone. Won't talk to me. I wrote this song that's like trying to reach him through a wall. But I've never played it for anyone. It's too personal," Jimmy finished. "Yeah. Play it now." Claire's eyes widened. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're..." She gestured helplessly at him. "You're Jimi Hendrix." For the first time that night, Jimmy smiled. Just slightly. Just at the corners of his mouth. "I'm just someone sitting on a floor in a room," he said. "Same as you. Play your song." Claire picked up her guitar. Her hands were shaking worse than Michael's had been. She started playing, tentative at first, then stronger. The melody was simple. Almost plain. The lyrics were about a brother's silence. About coming home. About the distance between people who used to be close. It was raw. Unpolished. Nothing like what was on the radio. It was perfect. When she finished, her eyes were wet. No one spoke. Jimmy sat forward slightly. "That's it." "That's what?" Claire whispered. "That's the thing you think you can't do. That's the thing only you can do. That wall you're singing about, that's your sound. That's what people need to hear." In that quiet moment, Hendrix did something no one expected. He picked up his own guitar. Still unplugged. And he started playing Claire's song back to her. But different. He'd only heard it once, but his fingers found the melody immediately, then started building around it. Adding notes she hadn't thought of. Finding spaces in the chords she hadn't known existed. Taking her simple song and showing her what it could become, not by replacing it, but by revealing what had always been inside it. He played for maybe 3 minutes. Everyone in the room was transfixed. Not because it was flashy. There was no distortion, no volume, no fire. Just pure musical architecture. The sound of someone who understood the instrument so completely that he could speak through it the way other people spoke with words. When he stopped, he looked at Claire. "You hear that? That's already in your song. You just gotta trust it." Claire was crying. Not sad crying. The other kind. Jimmy turned to the rest of the room. "All of you. You're all doing the same thing. You're trying to sound like someone else. Trying to make something that sounds like it should matter instead of making the thing that already matters." He stood up slowly. Put his guitar back in its case. I gotta go. I got a session uptown. Wait, Michael said. Aren't you going to play something? For real? Plugged in? Jimmy looked at him. I just did. But we wanted to hear you actually. You did hear me, Jimmy said quietly. I'm always playing. Every time I listen, I'm playing. Every time I show you what's already in your thing, I'm playing. You think music is just the sound? He walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. 12 of you in this room tonight. 40 years from now, someone's gonna ask you about this. About the night you met me. You know what I want you to tell them? No one answered. Tell them you played for me. Tell them you showed me your scared thing. Tell them that mattered more than anything I ever played on a stage. He left. The door closed. 12 people sat in silence for a long time. Someone finally stood up, turned on a lamp. The spell slowly broke. People started gathering their things, saying goodbyes, heading back to their own lives. But something had shifted. Everyone in that room felt it. Michael went home that night and threw away every Bob Dylan cover he'd been playing. Started writing his own material. Never got famous. Didn't matter. He played music that was his for the next 50 years. Claire recorded the song about her brother. It became a small folk standard in certain circles. More importantly, her brother eventually heard it and called her. They talked for the first time in 3 years. Sarah finished the painting of her mother. It hangs in a gallery in Soho now. People stop in front of it and cry. What followed stayed with everyone in the room, long after the last note faded. Over the years, whenever anyone asked those 12 people about meeting Jimi Hendrix, they all told the same story. About the night he came to a small room and didn't play. About how he listened instead. About how he heard the thing they were too scared to finish, and told them that was the only thing worth finishing. None of them could remember what song Jimmy had actually played that night. The details blurred. But they all remembered what he'd said. They all remembered how it felt. In 2008, 40 years later, a music journalist tracked down 11 of the 12 people who'd been in that room. One had died. The painter, Sarah, in 2003. The journalist wanted to write about Hendrix's unknown performances, the secret sessions, the mythology. He interviewed them separately. Asked them all the same question. What did Jimi Hendrix play that night? Every single one of them said the same thing. He played us. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The 12th person, the one the journalist couldn't track down, was never identified. Probably didn't matter. 12 people, or 11, or 13. The number wasn't the point. The point was this: real mastery doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It doesn't crush. It listens. It makes space. It shows you what was already inside you, waiting. Jimi Hendrix died 2 years after that night in the Village apartment. He was 27 years old. He left behind 3 studio albums, countless live recordings, and the permanent redefinition of what an electric guitar could do. But for 12 people in a small room in 1968, his legacy wasn't the fire or the volume, or the impossible technique. His legacy was 6 words. That's the thing only you can do. Years later, when Michael was teaching guitar to teenagers in Brooklyn, he would stop mid-lesson sometimes and tell them about that night. Not to impress them, but to explain something he couldn't quite articulate any other way. The greatest musician I ever met, he'd say. Spent the whole night listening. He never showed us how good he was. He showed us how good we could be. One of his students once asked, "But didn't you want to hear him really play? Weren't you disappointed?" Michael thought about it. Shook his head. "I heard him play every day after that. Every time I picked up my guitar and played something true instead of something safe, I heard him. That's what he gave us. Not a performance. A permission." Claire kept a journal entry from that night. She read it sometimes when she doubted herself. Jimi Hendrix sat on a floor and listened to amateurs play amateur songs, and he treated every single note like it mattered. Like we mattered. I don't think I understood what respect was before tonight. Real respect isn't telling someone they're good. It's showing them they already have everything they need. The apartment on McDougal Street is long gone. Torn down in the 1980s, replaced by a building that houses a Starbucks on the ground floor. None of the 12 people who were there that night ever tried to mark it, memorialize it, turn it into a landmark. They didn't need to. They carried it with them. That's what Hendrix understood that most people didn't. The real performance isn't the one people watch. It's the one they carry inside themselves afterward. The one that changes how they see their own hands on their own instruments in their own small rooms. 12 people. One night. No recording. No witnesses outside that room. And a story that all of them told the same way for 40 years. Not because they rehearsed it, but because some truths don't need rehearsal. They just need someone brave enough to live them.